Okay, cool. So you are going to need a strap. Now, if you don't have a yoga strap, that's totally fine. I've literally got a dressing gown belt on the floor. So it can be a dressing gown belt. It can be those in Canada watching later, that's a house coat belt. Um, it can be, what else? A scarf. It can be an actual belt, anything like that. We're going to be using it for shoulder stuff. And then you will probably need 2 blocks if you have them. And if you don't have blocks, you can make do without them. The first kind of 10 or so minutes of the class will be sitting, doing some breath work. So if you do have blocks, bolster, pillows, something to make it more comfortable for you sitting, then grab them now. I'm going to mute everybody. If at any point you need to shout something at me, if something doesn't feel right, if suddenly you can't hear me anymore, my mics are pretty charged. I've never done 3 classes in a row with them. So if at any point you can't hear me, just unmute yourself, shout, and then I'll unplug my mics. But I'm hoping that they'll last the 3 class journey. Okay, so mute. I should be the main screen, but if I'm not, go to my little square, hit the 3 dots, and hit pin video, and that should make me the main video. Okay, so we're going to do some pranayama, some breath work. So bring yourself to sit down. And, prop yourself up as much as you need, okay? It's not uncommon to struggle sitting cross-legged. If you need to sit against a wall, I'm not against that either, okay? I'd rather you be able to do this stuff comfortably than just being annoyed and not comfortable the whole time. So if you need to sit against a wall, do that. That's totally fine. And then hands, okay? When we come to sit cross-legged, this pose is called Sukhasana. So hopefully you guys have started to dip your toe into the posture tutorials. I'm going to go over some of the poses in the posture tutorial, but Sukhasana annoyingly translates to easy pose, which I think for a lot of us, sitting is not an easy pose. Sitting when we're not supported by a chair, when our back isn't supported, when we have to use our core to sit, when we have to use our hip flexors, it can be challenging. So this pose is Sukhasana, easy seated. You can have your legs just crossed normally. I know when I first started doing a lot of sitting like this, I had to keep switching the cross of my legs. Another thing that you can do is kind of pull the feet sort of apart from each other. I sometimes like to scooch so that just the very back of my butt cheeks are being held by the block, and then I kind of tip forward. So that's also another option. If you can't do that, sitting legs wide, whatever works for you, okay? The wall as well. Make Sukhasana as easy of a sitting pose as possible for you. When I did my 200-hour yoga teacher training, they didn't let us use blocks and they didn't let us use the wall. So all of our lectures were taught sitting on the floor. And I remember it was just torture. I mean, it's probably made me better at sitting, but it was horrible and I didn't enjoy it. So I don't want you to feel that way. Okay, so hands, we can have them facing down or facing up, and they can be on the knees, they can be on the thighs, they can be in the lap. I like to play around with the different poses. I find that hands down is more of like an internal kind of, I'm really trying to focus inwards. I find hands facing up, 1, opens up my shoulders, which I quite like. And also 2, it makes me feel like I'm more welcoming, more kind of bringing in whatever the yoga practice is going to bring to me, calling to the universe. It's just a far more opening pose. So neither's right or wrong. It's fun to kind of play around with them. Hands in the lap, maybe if you feel like you really need to focus or bring that attention inwards. So I want you to find a hand position that works for you. And then just bring your eyes to close. And just start to notice what's going on. Take in the atmosphere of the mind here. I love this idea of our mind being this microcosm, this microclimate, and that through our yoga practice, through our breath work, through our meditation, we can start to control the weather. Not always. Okay, sometimes the storms are too strong, but over time we can start to really part the clouds, have some nice, perfect blue sky, and think really calmly. So pranayama, breath work. Prana is life force. Yama is the control. So controlling this life force being your breath, your prana, the energy within you. And pranayama, breath work, is really all about you. It's all about this awareness of yourself, of what's going on. So I want you to just see if you can relax here. And we're just going to do an awareness breathing exercise. So nothing too crazy. So I just want you, without changing the breath, to start to notice how long your inhale and exhale are. Now, what I want you to avoid doing is counting it. So try not to count, because when you start to count, you're going to elongate your breath. You're going to try to meet the count. So just simply notice the length of your inhale and exhale. Don't worry if the mind wanders. I'm going to keep giving you little cues to focus on. I want you now to start to focus on the temperature. You've maybe never thought about this before, but the temperature of the breath on the inhale and exhale is different. As you breathe that breath in, the air is cooler. You're taking it from the air that's outside the body, bringing it into the body. And as you breathe the breath out, it's coming from inside the body. So that breath, the temperature of the breath is warmer. And can you feel the coolness and the warmth on the upper lip in the nostrils? So just focus on that for a moment. And see if you can shift your mind to this idea of the texture of the breath. Again, this might be really abstract, but what is the breath bouncing off of? What is the breath being affected by? So as you breathe in, perhaps it's a smoother breath. You're taking it in from the space that you're in, this big openness. As you breathe out, what is affecting that breath? Well, the throat, the lungs, the passageway of the nostrils. Maybe your nose is quite blocked. Okay, are you breathing in and out really easily through the nose, or is it difficult? So how is this affecting the texture? Good. And then see if you can start to shift your attention to the transitional spaces. So rather than focusing on the inhale and the exhale, I want you to focus on that space just before the breath changes, that pause, that otherness. And try not to hold the breath. Keep breathing naturally. But just see if you can catch that little moment. Really tune into it. Good. And then just gently flutter the eyes open. And rather than looking at the screen yet, when you open your eyes, just take in what you can see. Okay, so in front of me, I've got a rug, I've got a bag. I've moved all the mess out of the way, so it's all in front of me. You can't see it. And then just slowly start to raise up to the screen so that in between these breath works, we're not then connecting to the screen or taking ourselves away from the internal practice. So when you first come out of meditation or breath work, when we're doing these Zoom classes, I want you to avoid racing the eyes to look at the screen. Just take in what's in front of you. And this is going to help you then later when you come to do this practice on your own. Okay, so we're now going to look at more classical pranayama. Okay, and we're going to first talk about Ujjayi breath. Okay, Ujjayi means in Sanskrit victorious or uprising. So it's this real like raw, amazing breath. So pranayama is this energy or life force. And so we are victorious and uprising through this life force, through this energy. It's a real powerful breath. And Ujjayi breath is classically used to warm the body from the inside out. So classically yoga, I mean, actually it's practiced in India where it's quite warm. But often, you go to a yoga class, probably in your own house right now, it's maybe not that warm, especially if you're wearing sort of yoga clothes. If you're practicing outside, or if you've ever gone to a yoga class in like a church hall, it can be really cold. And this Ujjayi breath helps us to warm up. So it's a tool of warming up. Often isn't practiced in hot yoga so much because you're already hot. So we don't want to be like stoking the fire doubly, compounding that. So it acts as like a physical warm up for the body, okay? But it's also really great to tune in, okay? And because of this, it's an auditory breath, okay? And so therefore we switch on the senses and we can hear our breath, and this helps us to stay connected. So two of the breath works that we're doing today are noisy breaths, okay? So before we practice it officially how it's meant to be done, we're going to practice just the noise. Okay. So you're going to breathe in and you're going to go, ah. And as you breathe out, you're going to go, ha. So you're just breathing in and out, going, ha. Okay. So nothing too crazy. I can't hear you. No one can hear you. So try to let go of inhibitions. Be as silly as you want. If it helps to smile, smile. Okay, so that noise is what we want to be making, but with the mouth closed. Okay, so close the mouth now and breathe in. So sort of saying that ha, ha, but with the mouth closed. Okay, so we're getting towards Ujjayi. So that's sort of, it's like you're saying the word ha. Now, what I want you to do, and hopefully you'll be able to hear me, is as you do this, you're gonna slightly constrict the throat, the larynx, okay? So it's like you're just kind of closing them. So it's gonna be harder to make that ha sound. So see if you can hear me. Hopefully you can. I'll hold this. Okay, so I don't know if you could hear me, but it's less of the noise. Hudson's coming to say hi. So close the eyes, constrict the throat. I find it easier to make the noise on the exhale. And if you can, start to elongate the breath ever so slightly. So Ujjayi breath sometimes is referred to as oceanic breathing. So if you can think about the sounds of the waves. Or Darth Vader breath. Okay, I am your father. That kind of sound. So we're just going to practice this for about 60 seconds, okay? So if you need to shuffle or move the body, go for it. And just see if you can stay with that Ujjayi breath, that victorious, uprising breath. If the throat is feeling tender, don't constrict the larynx as much. Maybe don't do it at all and just work with the ha noise. Nice. Okay. Start to flutter the eyes open. Don't look at me. Just take in the surroundings around you and just notice how you're feeling. And then gently lifting the head up. Okay. So that's Ujjayi breath. We're going to practice that with some movement in a moment, but I'm just going to teach you two more. And then all of these breathing techniques are in that PDF document. So if you do want to work on this pranayama, you can print it out. So number 2 is called Viloma breathing. And the Viloma breath is a 3-step inhale. So you inhale in 3 parts. You don't want to like take massive inhales each time, otherwise you won't be able to do it. And you pause between the first inhale, the second inhale, and at the end of the third inhale, you just exhale all the way out. And you want to imagine that your torso has been chopped into 3. So abdominal, okay, kind of around the belly button and lower. Diaphragmatic, so just kind of mid rib cage. And then thoracic, so the bulk of the rib cage where the lungs kind of hang out, the shoulders and the collarbones. We start with abdominal, breathe slightly in there. We then move, little pause into diaphragmatic, breathe there, and then pause. And then we breathe into thoracic, fill as much breath as you can, and then exhale it out. Okay, so we're gonna do 2 rounds together and then you'll do 5 rounds on your own. So exhale the breath out, take an inhale, belly, pause, inhale, diaphragm, pause, inhale, thoracic, fill, 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 and then exhale it out. Straight into our second round. Inhale, belly, little baby pause. Inhale, diaphragm, little baby pause. Inhale, thoracic, fill, 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 fill. Exhale, release. Good. Close your eyes. 5 rounds on your own. And again, at the end, just flutter the eyes open, taking in just what's in the very kind of immediate peripheral vision. And then gently raising the head. Good. So Viloma is an up-regulating breath. We focus on that upward rising. So it's a kind of get you going kind of breath. And we're going to now move into Brahmari breath, which is a down regulating breath. So this is our other sort of audible breathing technique. And you're going to hum. It's a really lovely breath. And one of the really nice things about it is the internal vibration. I find this breath really relaxing. It's a great breath to do before you want to go to sleep or if you're stressed. If you're in a stressful situation, you could do this. It might be weird if you were like waiting in the queue at the doctor's and you started doing it, but maybe if you're in your car stuck in traffic, it's a good one to do. It's not about how long you breathe the breath out. It's just a normal exhale making the noise. So all you're going to do is take an inhale. And as you exhale, so Brahmari translates to your humming bee breath. Okay, so we're going to give it a go. We'll just do a few. I mean, I'm just going to start going and I want you guys to join me. Again, no one can really hear you. Try to let go of inhibitions. Close the eyes. Take an inhale. Do 5 more. And then again, just flutter the eyes open, allowing yourself to kind of take a moment to come back, the effects, and then raising the head. Nice. So we've got Ujjayi breathing, we've got Viloma, up regulating, and then we've got our Brahmari, humming bee breath, which is a down regulating breath. Okay, so we'll use those in all of our practices so that you can get comfortable with them. We're going to use some Ujjayi breath with our movement. So taking your time, okay, if your legs are feeling a little bit funky, give them a little shake, and we're going to come into tabletop position. So tabletop is essentially all fours. Okay. And most people will practice tabletop quite lazy, quite not engaged. So if you've watched the posture clinic, then you will have seen some of these teachings already. There are a few ways that you can hold your hands. Some teachers will teach this with the middle finger facing forwards. Okay. So give that a go. Turn the middle finger to face forwards and see how that feels on your shoulders. If you're someone with tight shoulders, you may want to have the hands a little bit further open. So you could take your index finger to face forward. So now just slightly alter that. Index finger faces forward. See how that feels. And if it still feels really tight in the fronts of the shoulders, then turn the kind of middle of the L, so between the thumb and the index finger forwards. Okay, and you can play around with these. Essentially what we don't want to have happen is that the shoulders feel like they're rounding in tabletop. We want them to be open. So finding that hand placement, and then press all of the circumference of the hand down, so the entire finger. Then from here, I want you to feel like your forearms are drawing towards each other. So there's like an active kind of pull inwards. Then from here, the bicep and the front of the shoulder, you're going to externally rotate that. So it's like you're taking the front of the shoulder head and you're trying to tuck it behind you. So you're just externally rotating, okay? And you might feel this more on the back than anywhere else. So just externally rotating here. Good. Now from here, I want you to push into the hands and you're going to feel the upper back slightly round. So actively push into those hands. Good. Press the fingers down, pull the forearms slightly towards each other, then externally rotate. Also think about broadening across your collarbones. Good. Let's hold that for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Just sit on the heels or anything that feels good. Take the hands into a fist and just roll the wrists in a circle. Good. Okay, so let's talk about the rest of tabletop. So that's our arms, our hands. Come back into tabletop. Find the finger position that feels the best to you. Push into those hands, draw the forearms slightly towards each other, then roll the shoulders out and broaden across the collarbones. Then from here, let your belly totally collapse. This is what we don't want to be doing. Now I want you to pull your hip slightly towards your rib or maybe slightly in towards the belly until you feel the belly draw in. Now, if you can see yourself in your little square, make sure that if I placed a cup of tea on your lower back, you wouldn't drop it and it wouldn't spill. What we don't want to be doing is this. Okay, so if you can see yourself, you want to get to a nice flat back. And it's a good thing to kind of film yourself sometimes. You want your tailbone, okay, the middle of the kind of butt, to be pointing back, not up. And we also don't want it tucking under. So we don't want to be going too far. Good. So this is tabletop. Where are we looking? We're looking straight down. We're not looking forward. So once you've found the position, stop looking at the screen, push into the hands, pull the forearms towards each other, turn the biceps out, broaden across the collarbones, zip the belly button in. Neck is nice and long, grow the tailbone backwards and grow the crown of the head forwards. Good. Okay, from here, this is neutral tabletop. We're going to start to move through cat-cow. So slowly start to soften. Let your belly drop. Let your tailbone start to shine up. Then start to pull the heart forwards. Now, what we don't want to do here is crease the back of the neck looking up to the sky. This isn't good for the neck. So I'm still kind of looking down, but on an angle, but there's this gentle curve of my spine. Now I'm going to start to push into my hands again. I'm going to start to curl my tailbone under and I'm going to round my back. This is cat, okay? Cat pose, really, really rounding here. Draw the belly in. All right, let's get lazy. Let's come into cow. So I call this lazy cow. Oh, tailbone rises, belly drops, nice and easy. And then start to come into that angry Halloween cat. So pushing the floor away, drawing the belly in.
Okay, now let's move with the breath. So inhale, start to let the belly drop. Sit bones are going to rise, chest is going to lift. As you exhale, start to move the other direction. Okay, so keep moving. Try to move for the duration of the breath. So the full inhale, you're coming into that cow, really articulating every part of the spine. And as you exhale, move for that full exhale, slow with control into that angry cat. Keep moving. And if you want to, start to constrict the throat slightly and see if you can find Ujjayi breath. So you're moving in and out of cat-cow, but you're making that noise as well. Good. Okay. Can you find neutral tabletop? So we've just gone to the two extremes, extension and flexion. Now, can you come back to that tabletop where we're really nice and active? Okay. Slightly drawing the belly in. From here, tuck your right toe, and I want you to drag your right toe behind you. Kick into the heel, feel a nice little stretch in the back of that hamstring. Then from here, walk your left hand forwards. So your right leg is behind you and your right hand is forwards. Good. From here, see if you can start to lift your right foot off the floor. Now, it doesn't have to be very high. We actually don't even necessarily want to come as high as the hips because we'll start to release in our lower back and we'll let go of the core. So keep the foot a little bit lower than hips distance and make sure you can still draw the belly in. Now look down, don't look at me. You can either stay there and just work on balance, or if you want to challenge yourself, you're going to lift your left hand off the mat. Now you're trying to get your bicep in line with your ear. Thumb is facing up. Now, if you're wobbling all over the place, put the hand back down and just see if you can find that engagement of the core and see if you can find that Ujjayi breath. Just breathing through it. Just going to count you here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Bring the hands back down. Bring the knee back down. Let's just sit back into a little child's pose. So let's chat about child's pose here. So knees, or toes rather, come to touch, and then knees wide. As wide as you feel comfortable, okay? I like to take them as wide as my mat, but I've been practicing yoga for a long time. You might not feel that comfortable. The bum is trying to go towards the heels, but that's fine if it lifts. Take the forearms and the elbows down and let your belly be soft. Now, if this is too intense on the hips, you can grab a block and place the block underneath the bum. This is going to keep the hips from coming down. If you feel comfortable with the head on the mat, go for it. If that's not comfortable, grab your other block and take your forehead onto your block. Then create those little fists with your hands and roll your wrists in circles. Okay, when we're new to yoga, our wrists are going to be really the main thing that kind of chats to us and gets really kind of whingy and complains. You'll be absolutely amazed at how strong your wrists will become at the end of the 8 weeks. Nice. Okay. So moving the blocks, if you're using them, you're going to pull yourself back into tabletop position. Find all those points. Okay. So press into the hands. Roll the biceps out. Pull the collarbones away from each other. Looking down, belly is slightly in, growing through the crown of the head, growing through the tailbone. Tuck the left toe, drag the left toe behind you, kick into the heel. Right hand forwards onto those fingers. From here, lift that left foot. Now, make sure that you're not lifting so high that you dump in the lower back. You still want to feel the hip and the rib slightly towards each other. Either stay there, or if you can, bringing right hand off the mat. Breathe, maybe coming back to that Ujjayi breath. For 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Place the hand and the knee down, sit straight back into child's pose.
Hands into those fists and roll those wrists. So big old circles. You could even think about doing figure 8 shapes with those wrists. You want to curl your thumb around the index finger because that's where you're really going to want a nice stretch. Good. Okay, pulling yourself into tabletop. We're going to come into standing. Okay, so whatever way you want to come into it. I like to come to standing by going into downward dog and then walking myself to standing. But, you know, I don't care how you get there. Just bring yourself up to stand. Good. If you need to adjust the screen, be nice if I could see your body. So if you can adjust it a little bit, that'd be awesome, but also don't worry. Okay, so chatting about Tadasana Mountain Pose. Okay, so Tadasana Mountain Pose is the first position in all of the Surya Namaskaras, so the sun salutations, which is what we're going to look at next week. So Tadasana, there's two ways that the feet can be. You can stand with the feet together. Now, I don't love my feet together. I feel like it makes my knees go funny. It might just be because my thighs are quite big. So I like to take my feet about hip distance. One of the first things you're going to need to learn is that hip distance is not the outside edges of your butt cheeks. So take your hands into two fists and bring the thumb edge of your fist together. Yeah. Now bring your hands, they'll probably go just about your pubic bone around your hip distance. And then you're going to roll your fists out until you're on the pinky edge of the fist and then press. That's your hip bones, okay? This is how wide the feet are. So what people often do when I say come to hip distance is they stand much wider because they think that's as wide as their hips. So bring your hands down onto the floor and then shuffle your feet. So your hands are in those fists. Shuffle your feet so that the inside of your foot is on the outside of your pinky finger. That's about hip distance, okay? So you don't need to measure that every time. Maybe measure it a few times and get comfortable with that position. Okay, so Tadasana, if we just come to stand, most of us are going to be doing lots of bad habits. We get bad habits through standing. A lot of people either roll onto the outside edges of their feet or they roll inwards. Some people are real kind of hitchers, so they take weight into one side or the other. We've then got people who bow the knees in. We've got people like myself who sway back, lock out the knees all the time. Then we've got the pelvis. So some people are anterior tilters. So it means that the front pelvis goes down and they duck bum the butt behind them. We've got some people who are posterior tilters who then stand like this. Okay, so there's anterior tilters often will explode the belly out, dump into the lower back. If you could see, I'm like really dumping in my lower back. Posterior tilters are really hunchy. Okay, this is what you often see with like as people get really quite elderly, they start to hunch, and we want to avoid that. So Tadasana is working on kind of eliminating all those bad habits. Always start from the foundation. Okay, that's why I started with the wrists when we were in tabletop. We're going to start with the feet today. So I want you to just look down at your feet, say good morning, hello feet. I'm going to appreciate you from now on. And then I want you to lift your toes off the mat. Okay, just notice how that feels. Actively lifting the toes. Maybe you get a toe cramp, maybe you don't. Then, with the toes lifted, can you spread the toes really nice and wide? Spread them wide, 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 wide. Good. From here, can you press just the big toe down? Keep spreading the toes. This might be impossible. You might be getting all kinds of cramps. Then from here, can you keep the big toe pressing down? Take the pinky toe far and touch just the pinky toe down. So pinky toe and big toe, rest of the toes lifted. You might be like, what? Like I cannot articulate my toes. What is she telling me to do? I'm almost at the point where I can do this now. I've been practicing it for about a year. Good, let it go, shake it out. So because we wedge our feet in shoes all the time, we don't know how to articulate our feet that much. Our humans before ages and ages and ages ago, okay, when shoes didn't really exist, had really dexterous toes. We don't. And it's one of the things that we want to work on and strengthen, especially in yoga, because we need our toes and our feet a lot. So lift the toes again, and then press the toes down. Now, what I want you to do is an isometric activation. Pull the ball of the foot and the heel of the foot towards each other. Okay, they're not actually going to move, but feel that activation. Now, what you might notice is that you're going to feel the arch of your foot lifting. This is a really good exercise for anyone with fallen arches. So just pull that together. So keep that activation. Now start to think about the front of the shins lifting. the kneecaps lifting, the fronts of the thighs lifting. Good. Squeeze your butt and feel a slight external rotation of those thigh bones. Draw the navel in. And if you're someone who naturally goes into this external, this forward tilt, try not to lock out the knees. And just take your hands onto your hip bones for a moment. If you feel like the fronts of the hips are really dipping down, try to lift them up. Alternatively, if you feel like you're somebody who really lifts through the front of the hips, try to bring them down. So we're just trying to find neutral. And it takes a while to get there. Navel's drawing slightly in, and then sternum is going to lift slightly up. Then from here, turn your thumbs out to the sides and slightly draw the backs of the shoulders together and down. So it's an upward motion together, then down. Your chin is slightly tucked, so we're not sending the chin forward. Slight tuck of the chin, growing through the crown of the head. Tadasana, active pose, okay? Close the eyes and just take 5 rounds of Ujjayi here. Make sure the feet are active. If the toes are fluttering off the floor, if you're tipping onto one side of the foot, get the whole bottom of that foot placing down, growing nice and tall. Good. And again, flutter the eyes open. Don't look at the screen first. Just take in what's around you. Good. Bringing the hands to heart center. Okay, so we're coming into Anjali Mudra. Okay, a mudra is a seal or imprint. Okay, and it's essentially a hand placement in yoga. There are hundreds of mudras. We're going to keep it quite simple. Anjali is heart, and this mudra is to offer. Okay, so we're offering. So hands to heart center, you might say prayer pose, but it's called Anjali Mudra. And then just slightly tuck the chin and look to the tips of the fingers. And just focus on breathing here for a moment. Nice. From here, you're going to take the hands down, up, and as they come up, you're going to turn the thumb out so that you're externally rotating the shoulders. So you're opening up the shoulders. And then we're going to come up. Now, I'm going to go a little bit lower because you won't be able to see my hands. We're coming into Namaskara Mudra, okay, which is a hand together mudra. Now, for some of us, this is quite difficult actually for me because of my shoulders, and I feel like I'm really hunching over. So come as high as feels good and that you get a stretch. And then, then come back down and into that Anjali Mudra. Okay, so it doesn't matter, okay? Namaskara Mudra, hands up to the sky, hands up, okay? It basically means greeting of oneself. It's part of the sun salutations that we'll look at next week. So we're going from Anjali to Namaskara, and we're gonna use the breath to get us there. So hands at heart center, take an inhale, exhale, inhale, hands come wide, externally rotate, bring the hands up, Namaskara Mudra, doesn't matter if the hands touch. Exhale, turn the palms to face down all the way through center and back to Anjali. Good. Make sure that you're not coming into bad habits with those legs, those feet. So just rearrange, get those feet nice and active. Try not to lock out the knees. Get the pelvis nice and centered. You're going to do 5 of these on your own. So as you inhale, arms come up to Namaskara. As you exhale, palms come down to Anjali. Take a breath to just have that little pause. And the next time that you inhale, move. If you want, you can switch on that Ujjayi breathing. So all we're training right now is to move with our breath. So we're not going up, down, up, down. We're moving for the duration of that breath. Good. And it should feel nice. Just that upward and downward movement connecting to our breath. Your breath is your prana, it's your life force, it's your energy. And we're controlling that. Breathing makes us feel good. So it's going to make us feel nice. Come back to Anjali Mudra and then interlace the fingers and just rest the hands onto your chest. Bow the chin. So we're going to do some more breath and movement, but we're going to start to use the spine and the core as well. So hands together. You're going to take an inhale and you're going to lift your heart, lift your gaze. And as you exhale, keep the fingers interlaced, but you're going to start to push the hands forwards. Now, as you push the hands forwards, bow the chin and really feel the belly drawing in. Good. Inhale, take the hands as high as you can get. So some of you might only get this high. Some of you might be able to come all the way up. Some of you might be able to take the arms behind you and take a little back bend. As you exhale, bring the hands back down, bow the chin. Good. Okay, we're going to do 5 rounds of this. Inhale, heart lifts. Take the gaze up. Exhale, push forwards. Oh, feel the belly draw in. Lovely protraction of the shoulders. Inhale, take it high. Doesn't matter how high. Exhale, back down. Bow the chin. Elbows draw in. Inhale, lift. Elbows lift. Heart lifts. Gaze lifts. Exhale, round. Inhale, lift. Exhale, close it down. Good. I want you to do 3 more. You can close your eyes, move with your own breath. One more round. I don't know if you can hear, but I'm doing Ujjayi the whole time, bringing the hands back down. And just flutter the eyes open. Just maybe looking to the fingertips, maybe to the mat in front of you. And then just gently raising the head, come back to Tadasana. Nice. Roll the shoulders together and down the back so you're nice and open. You're training the shoulder heads to have more space. Good. Okay. Grab a hold of your strap. So we are doing a lot of shoulder stuff. We're doing a lot of breathing. And the reason for linking shoulders and breath is that if we are hunched over, if we don't have space in our shoulders, think about where your lungs hang out, okay? So if you're hunched over and you don't have space here, this is your pecs that attach to your biceps. And then you've got your thoracic chamber, okay? If you're tight here, you can't get those deep breaths where when we want to breathe nice and deep, we need to have that stretch. We need to have that space. And that means that our shoulders need to be open as well. So shoulder mobility is really important to pranayama, to breathing. So we're going to do some more shoulder stuff. And we're also going to work into that thoracic chamber, okay? The muscles, if you feel, give them a poke, okay? In between the ribs. So find the bony bit of the rib and then feel that sort of soft space between the ribs. Okay, these muscles are called your intercostals. They are responsible. Without our intercostals, we wouldn't be able to breathe. Okay, they're going to help move the diaphragm and they help to move the rib cage. So they're the muscles that are responsible for letting the ribs expand and then close back down. Okay, so intercostals really important. We're going to stretch into them. So strap maybe a little bit wider than hips distance. Okay, and you're just going to bring that strap up to the sky. Take an inhale, lengthen. And as you exhale, just start to reach to one side. Doesn't matter. Okay, you can go the same direction or opposite as me. Now, what we don't want to do here is crunch. Okay, so we're not trying to create a big old roll, a big old crease here. Now, as I go over, I still get some rolls. That doesn't matter. So inhale, find length, and think about lengthening the side that you're going to stretch into, then start to go over. Inhale, find length, then start to go over. So it's not about creating this massive curve. It's more about finding space, then working into that space. If you want to take the arms wider, if the shoulders feel pinchy, okay, and by pinchy, I mean like it just doesn't feel that nice, then take the hands wider. And all of this, especially at the beginning of your practice, is a lot of kind of trial and error. Come back to center. Inhale, lengthen straight up first. Then exhale, start to take that stretch. Oh, I love these stretches. They're so nice. And they're stretches that'll help you move throughout the whole rest of your day. Nice. Okay, come back to center. Let the shoulders come down. Give them a little roll. Okay, shoulder burn is common. Okay, you're doing a lot of shoulder strength. Even just keeping the arm in the air, you're having to work those muscles. So this one, you're going to need the hands wider. Okay, so if you are someone who maybe has an X shoulder injury or has tight shoulders, this is a really, really good exercise. It's going to feel a bit weird. It might not feel lovely, but it's a really good one. So arms are going to stay straight. Watch me first. You're going to inhale up and you're going to exhale, all the way over without bending the arms. Now, what I don't want you to do is like a wheelbarrow, okay, windmill over, and also not bending the elbows to get over. So this is trial and error again, finding that position. So strap in front of you, inhale up. This bit's easy. Where it gets tough, okay, is about here. Now, if you feel totally stuck, just slide the hands further apart and stay for a moment in that stretch. Don't try to rush through it. Once the hands come down, it should feel okay. Inhale back up, into that stretch, into that stretch, into that stretch, all the way over. Okay, don't rush it. We're going to do 10. When you get to that sticky bit, live in it. Okay, revel in it. Oh, God, yep, that's the stretch that I need. Woo. Okay, go at your own pace. If you know that you're someone who hunches over, if you know that you're someone who has really tight front of chest, okay, all the muscles that you're feeling into the forearm, you're feeling into the elbow, you're feeling into the bicep, you're feeling into the pecs, all of the kind of tendons that wrap across the front of the shoulder head, all of these are getting a really nice stretch. And you're developing shoulder mobility here. Okay, if you struggle to get your seatbelt on, if you struggle to put on a backpack, imagine if you did this every day, how much easier that would be, because slowly over time, you're going to get those hands closer and closer together. Whoa. So if you've done maybe 5, see if you can bring them a titch closer. Nothing massive, but just an eensy weensy bit. Good. Whoa. And this is also bringing you into a bit of a back bend, okay? Back bends, we need that mobility in the shoulders. We need that mobility across the front of the chest. Oh, good, nice. Good. Take the strap to the sides and just find Tadasana again. Roll the shoulders together, down the back, thumbs out to the sides, palms face forwards. Actively pull the ball of the foot, the heel of the foot towards each other. Lift through the front side of the legs. Draw the navel in. Lift through the sternum, slight tuck of the chin. Grow through the crown of the head. And just notice any sensations, any vibrations, any feelings. Take a big breath in through the nose. And then just open the mouth and sigh it out. Good. Fluttering the eyes open. We're going to make our way onto our back. Any fancy way you want to get there. Coming onto the mat. Okay. And then rolling down onto the floor. So we're going to bring our arms into cactus. Okay. So palms face up. And then take your feet as wide as your mat. From here, drop your knees over to the right. Okay. So knees over to the right. Option 1, this is where you stay. Option 2, you're going to lift your right foot and place it on top of your left knee. This is going to open up the left side a little bit more. Option 3, arms come over the head. You're going to grab a hold of your left wrist and you're going to pull your left wrist over to the right. That's option 3, if you want it. Okay. Staying here. Just finding that space. Nice. And then release. Take the foot back onto the mat, knees up to the sky. So both knees facing up. feet wide, and then knock those knees over to the left. So option 1, you just let the knees hang out in space. Option 2, left foot comes on top of that right knee. Option 3, grab a hold of your right wrist, and just start to pull that right wrist over to the left, trying to get that right arm nice and straight. Nice. And then just slowly start to release, taking that left foot back onto the floor. So we're going to make our way into Shavasana now. If you are chilly, grab a blanket, grab some socks, whatever you need. Extending our legs. So we're going to take a really classic Shavasana. If you need to bend your knees, go for it. So legs are going to externally rotate, toes out to the side. Move everything out of the way. You don't want anything touching the body. Then arms are going to come down by your sides. You're going to lift the chest slightly. And like you're making a really tight bed, you're going to tuck your shoulder blades underneath you. This is going to also help to open up the shoulders. Palms face up, squeeze the palms in towards each other, fingers into the palms, and then just release. So you're not kind of sending the fingers long, you're just letting them curl in naturally. And then just gently roll onto the back of the head a couple of times until you find that center point. And feel the backs of the heels become heavy. Feel the backs of the calves releasing. The shins, the knees, the thighs soften as the glutes pull and expand, as the right hip and left hip let go, the entire pelvis heavy. Feel the vertebrae falling one after the other towards the mat, and feel the ribs releasing like rungs of a ladder, one after the other. The left and the right collarbone begin to float towards the floor, the chest open, shoulders heavy. Upper arm, elbow, lower arm soften and release. Backs of the hands heavy, palms of the hands and fingers soft. The jaw softens, the teeth slightly part. The cheeks let go and just slide off of the framework of the skull. Eyes heavy, sinking back. The space between the brows softens as left and right eyebrows slink towards the mat. The back of the head heavily grounding into the mat as you feel your entire body sink, disappear, and become one with the mat beneath you. Keep the eyes closed, the body still, but just start to reignite your breath again. And as the breath deepens, just feel those little tiny electric sparks as the nervous system starts to wake up, the cells of the body start to wake up. And then just give a gentle little movement in your fingers, gentle little movement in your toes. And then start to bring the legs together, pointing the toes. Reach the arms over the head. Take a nice big inhale. You're going to hold the breath at the top. We're going to see if we can hold for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Open the mouth and let it all go. Bend the knees. Bring the left arm around the waist and roll yourself onto the right. You're going to use your right arm, your right bicep as a pillow. Coming into embryo pose. Remember this life and death of this Shavasana, this ritual in our yoga class. And if you can, keep the eyes closed. Don't worry if you can't. If you need to kind of rock and roll, bringing yourself into a seated position. And we're going to turn our palms to face down, curling the fingers around the fronts of the knees and just trying to hold this practice for ourselves just a little bit longer. Grow through the crown of the head. Roll the shoulders up to the ears, squeeze the shoulders together, and then down the back. And just before we seal our practice, I want you to take note of any small or subtle changes, perhaps in the body, the mind, or the breath. And inhaling, hands come high. If you can touch the palms together, seal your practice with gratitude. Thumbs drop towards the space between the brow for kindness and thoughts, to the lips for kindness and words, and then resting at heart center for you to carry kindness, compassion, and action through the rest of your day. Opening the eyes. Well done, everyone. Namaste. Well done. Good job. It was really nice to see all of you kind of moving and doing everything. You're on mute, so if you do want to share anything, you just got to unmute yourselves.
Megan?
Yeah.
I have 2 questions. PDF, where is that? Because I've downloaded the workbook. Are you referring to the workbook or something else?
So in the week 1 module, there should be a PDF. I'm just going to double check. And it says, I think, breath and meditation. Let me just double check because it's a little document of the meditation stuff that we did. Has anybody else seen it?
I think it's there.
You think it's there?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've seen it.
Okay, yeah. It should be just in the week 1 bit. So you've got like, yeah. Let me just pull it up.
In the workbook, is it?
So it's not in the workbook. So you've got the workbook. That's a different document. And then this is just like something that you can print out if you want it. Oh, goodness. So in week 1. I think it's called meditation options. I'm just opening it to double check that I'm, yes. So it's called meditation options, and then you open it and it says meditation and pranayama options, and it's a PDF handout.
Okay.
Yeah. And what was the second one?
Second one was these videos get uploaded to the Facebook group, yeah?
Not to the Facebook group, it'll be uploaded into week 1. So the meditation class that we did is now in week 1. I think it's just week 1 live recording meditation. And then this will be week 1 live recording breath and movement or something. I'll call it something.
You'll give it a fancy name.
Give it a fancy name. Yeah.
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 And then how long do we have access for? Is that
Life.
for lifetime or is that for the course?
Yeah, forever.
Because I'm never going to remember all the names and I'm like,
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of content, and that's why you'll have lifetime access. And I think it's, you do this once with me and then you can do it again. And every time you practice, you learn something.
yeah, consistency and persistency, isn't it? So
Yeah.
thank you. I really enjoyed today.
Good. Anybody
Yeah,
else?
I did too. Feels great.
Good.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm having trouble remembering all the Sanskrit words. It's okay when you do it for the introductory session, and then 10 minutes later you say we're going to do a prada-da-da-da-da, and I haven't found what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, they'll come. Each time you practice, you'll remember something. If you want to like really start to learn them, go to the pose tutorials. Has anybody tapped into the posture tutorial videos yet? So they're only like between 2 to 5 minutes long. They're really short, but it's basically me just teaching you each of the poses. So you could, you know, try to do a couple a night or something, and that might help to remember them. But it takes time. I mean, God, Sanskrit's tough. Everybody else all right?
Thanks, Megan. I've got to run, so bye-bye, everybody. See you
Bye.
next time.
Yeah.
Bye. See you next
Bye.
See ya.